signal to the world we are open for business. A vibrant showcase of Filipino ingenuity and innovation has landed the Malikhaing Pinoy Expo 2025, spotlighting our nation's creatives across visual arts, digital media, fashion, performing arts, and more.
This expo is our way to showcase the archipelagic Filipino creativity.
We have so many artists ngayon.
We're trying to build the Filipino look.
We want to showcase how their creative skills and talents can be translated into business opportunities.
It really proves na tayo mga Filipino ay talagang malikhain.
I'm 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗏 bringing you business news and information here on Open for Business. Cash withdrawals or encashments are now limited to 500,000 pesos per day, according to the new rule of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The limit is being implemented to curb money laundering and terrorism financing. With the new limit, large value cash transactions for banks and non-bank financial institutions cannot go beyond the 500,000 peso withdrawal or other payouts, including foreign currency equivalent. Now, the cap is also applicable to single transactions and a series of transactions within a single banking day. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is placing a new constraint on large value cash transactions, mandating that bank and non-bank financial institutions limit cash withdrawals and other payouts to a maximum of 500,000 pesos or its foreign currency equivalent. Now, in other business news, cash remittances from overseas Filipino workers reached a 7-month high of $3.2 billion in July. That's the highest monthly inflow since December 2024, data from the BSP showed. Year on year, the July inflow increased by 3% from $3.08 billion during the same month in 2024. For the first 7 months of the year, remittances through banks reached $19.93 billion. That's up by 3.1% from $19.33 billion in the same period in 2024. Total vehicle sales for the first 8 months marginally went up to 305,381 units from 304,765 cars sold during the same period last year. The latest data was released jointly by the Chamber of Automotive Manufacturers of the Philippines Incorporated and the Truck Manufacturers Association. Now, according to the report, vehicle sales in August were slower by 7.6% to 36,174 units. The Philippine delegation to Osaka, Japan clinched around 51 billion pesos worth of investments, announced the Department of Trade and Industry Secretary Cristina Roque. Roque said most of the investments totaling about 34 billion pesos came from Koshidaka Holdings Company Limited, the world's largest karaoke chain, which aims to open 300 outlets in the country over 10 years. This investment is expected to generate more than 1,500 direct jobs and seen to support thousands through construction and supply chain activities. Now, other companies which committed to invest included Marubeni Corporation with 15 billion pesos for real estate, finance technology, healthcare, and afforestation, 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏 Corporation with 2 billion to 3 billion pesos pledge, and Mitsui & Company, expanding its partnership with Metro Pacific Investment Corporation and Steel Asia. The DTI announced that the digital merchants and platforms have until September 30th to register for the e-commerce Philippine Trust Mark. The mandatory digital mark was meant to increase confidence by consumers to e-commerce platforms issued through Department Administrative Order number 25-12 in relation to the Internet Transaction Act of 2023. The directive was met with resistance from online sellers and digital merchants, especially with the annual registration fee of 1,130 pesos, with some claims of the order being counterproductive to the ease of doing business. DTI said that the trust mark, valid for 1 year from the date of issuance, must be displayed prominently on websites, seller profiles, or product pages. It also clarified that the digital mark, once secured, is not a license to trade and that merchants should still go through the process, or the normal process rather, of a business registration. And that's the business roundup for this week. I'm 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗲 for Open for Business.
This portion is brought to you by Clean and Fit. Kaibigan, feeling bloated? Heavy? Constipated? I-Clean and Fit mo na yan. Fix your gut. Fix your health with Clean and Fit. Available on Facebook, TikTok, Shopee, and Lazada.
Sa kasulukuyang henerasyon, marami na ang nag-viral. Dahil po yan sa kanilang ginagawang pagtulong sa kapwa. Pero mas marami ang tumutulong kahit walang nakakakita. Kaya naman kung ikaw ay may kilala na grupo o individual na may natatanging pagresponde sa lipunan at maging sa kalikasan, mag-text lamang sa 0915-415-1035 o mag-email sa responde@net25.com at magpadala ng mensahe sa ating Facebook page at Net25TV. Baka kayo na ang susunod nating Certified Key Responder.
Let's get together sa Net25. Sa Net25.
Say that the creative industry is really a driver, especially for us, the Philippines and the Filipinos. Importante ang creative industry for us because this is really where we excel. And I really believe that we must send our aces already out there. When we travel and we have creative events abroad, we get a lot of good reviews. We've used a lot of our creative talents, especially those that are on top, to really drive at least trade for us. No? But we really feel that the creative industry is a driver of trade and tourism.
It seems that there's a great traction of what you started not a few years ago with the promotion of creative industry. So, how do you assess with a very positive reaction of people in this opening?
Okay, so start off in 2022, the Philippine Creative Industry Development Act was enacted. Since then, we've seen a lot of support from the industry. Ever since, the creative industry are just there, that they are not unified. They are just all over the place. Because of the law, they were put together by the 9 domains. And since then, in 2022, we were part of that. And that we've seen a growth in support, and everybody is coming out suddenly. And since this Malikhaing Pinoy Expo is a manifestation of such overwhelming support from the industry. So remember that last year, 7.3% of the GDP is given by the value of the creative industry. About 7 million plus are in the creative industry, and we look forward to having them more and more in the coming years. This expo is our way to showcase the archipelagic Filipino creativity.
You mentioned about, good figures, but what about the figures in terms of budget going to the creative industry?
Well, I must say that for the past 3 years, we're able to get a rallied support. But then we were just saddened for a little bit when we learned that there are only few of that millions next year. But because of 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶 and the Special Committee on Creative Industry and the rest of the senators like former Senator 𝗗𝗶𝗵𝗆𝗆, Senator Amy Marcos and the rest are really rallying behind us. And I think we will be able to see an augmentation. So I hope that whoever is listening right now, who wanted to really use creative industry as an economic development tool, we can work with DTI, with my tool.
Of the 9 domains, which one is a priority that you think will make what the secretary was telling us is Asia superstar. Saan malakas?
Yeah, so far the data will show us that we have so much value in terms of game, animation, film, fashion, furniture, and creative goods. But then we're working with Department of Tourism for creative tourism. We're working with different agencies. So there is no such thing as really a priority by DTI because we are a member of a council. We chair the council, and that every department are given idea to what to prioritize. So all the 9 domains are still prioritized. It's just that the most pronounced are the audiovisual, digital, and the design.
I know that this is just the beginning, but what are the specific outputs that you are expecting out of this?
Okay, so we are moving towards our Asia's premier creative hub by the year 2030. We're actually working with the ASEAN Secretariat because of our chairmanship next year. So we're pushing for being ASEAN's Center for Creative Industry. So that is very tangible. If we get that designation on the ASEAN Center for Creative Industry, and then we could actually say that we already in that, and then the pedestal within the ASEAN. But clearly, we really wanted to have more economic value contribution. We wanted to really see more employment generated. While creativity can be likened to an expression of oneself, we wanted it to be sustainable. That's why we work with the artists, design, artisans, filmmakers, and all to become entrepreneurial, to look at the business side of their creativity so that they continue to work and grow. And we want it to be better, bigger, and brighter for the coming years.
There is one front, which is the domestic front, and that is basically you are consolidating all the efforts from the different domains. What about international? Do you have specific projects in the creative industries where you will really focus on the international stage?
While we focus on domestic consumption and production in the Philippines, we have worked with the Department of Foreign Affairs, and all the posts are aware of our Malikhaing Pinoy program. We work also with our own posts. We have the Philippine Trade and Investment Centers around the world that are also selling and putting forth that Malikhaing Pinoy is world-class and dynamic. And so we have a lot of projects. We have sent animators to Annecy Film Festival in France. We have sent game developers in Canada. We have sent our filmmakers and directors to Vancouver, in New York, in US, and France. And we have the Center for International Trade and Exposition Mission. They're also working abroad. And we have Design Center of the Philippines. So DTI alone has a very good mechanism within its ecosystem to really bring the best of the best. We call them the seizing the market opportunity approach, where we allow our products, once it is already world-class ang level, we can actually bring them to, and so we facilitate that. We work with the creative industry associations. A while back, we have fashion accessories makers of the Philippines, for example. We've been sending them to Tokyo, assisting them. The one that mentioned by the Secretary, Honorable Chris, was mentioning that we brought our models and artisans and fashion designers to Tokyo. This is a manifestation that DTI is always visible, not just domestically, but internationally.
You know, speaking of budgets, di ba? Although you mentioned that there's going to be a lot of augmentation, pero in your case, if there is a wish list, parang what budget are you looking at to really promote? You know?
We used to have 400 million plus last year, and we are able to help 62 local government units to be creative cities. But we are not able to do it this year because we lost a budget. So we're looking at 400 to 500 million. I think that is just small with the rest of the budgets that you've been hearing. But we look forward for augmentation. If it's not given by the Congress or the other government agencies or the Senate or the House of Representatives, we'll still do our best. But we hope we get augmentation. But we still have the private sectors, creative industry associations that are also helping us other than that, because you know we cannot stop. The momentum is already here. We cannot afford to rest. Well, the Department of Trade and Industry, with all its instrumentalities and attached agencies, have been very helpful to generic MSMEs. We're not tagging creative. But then we found out that majority of our MSMEs are also into creative. So we call them creative MSMEs. So first thing is financial support. You have small business corporation. In terms of trade fair, we actually allow them to participate for free. All of the exhibitors here are for free because we don't want to burden them. The only thing that they have to do is to create goods and creative services. And so bahala kami sa mga venue. And what we also do is that when we're able to ensure that their capacity building, we have the Philippine Trade Training Center, PTTC. So we train them to become more entrepreneurial. And so all of these things are happening all at once.
Should there be MSMEs who would want to promote their creative products, where will they go? What's the process of going?
So definitely, we are found in all of the negosyo centers around the country. They can visit the provincial office of DTI or the regional provincial office of the DTI. Every DTI office in this country are welcoming all MSMEs regardless of whether you're creative or supporting creative MSMEs. And so we welcome everybody to come visit DTI. If not, you can visit the Facebook of DTI. It's DTI Philippines. And if you could connect with us, we're happy to bring you options of where you can actually land in terms of support.
I was talking to the Director. You are one of the few politicians who are really supporting adding more budget to creative industries. Why are you doing this?
The Filipinos are creative by nature, and we have already seen multi-awarded globally. Ang talento ng Pinoy napakagaling po, and nakita po natin yan, alam na alam po natin yan. And putting budget and where our priority is, when we put investments sa creative industries, sobrang laki na exponential benefit para sa ating bansa. So, bihira po yung may mga industries tayo na globally recognized na po. So, ito, recognized na po tayo, bigyan natin ng tamang suporta. And as I mentioned earlier, yung budget po nakapasa na ng amendment to the National Internal Revenue Code that 5% ng digital services sa VAT exclusively for creative industries. So yung sinabi ko po kanina, fully realized po yan sa 2027. So babantayin po natin yan. We wanted to go to the creative industries as mentioned in the law. Dahil alam po natin, pag na-support ang Filipino creatives, globally, ang laki po ng exponential benefit, even economic benefit para sa atin.
Do you have specific favorites on these creative domains? Which one do you think would really highlight the creativity of the Filipino?
Well, 73 ang ating creative industries and 9 cluster domains. I do want to share that as much as we want to support everything, limited po ang ating resources. And I don't want to favor one over the other. Everything is valuable dahil meron po tayong mga stars in every industry. Ang gusto ko lang sabihin is we are looking at those who are active, those who are showing good track record, and those who can be united in their efforts by producing mga domestic talents that is recognized not only domestically but globally.
Design is actually one of the 9 creative domains of the creative industries. And being part of the Malikhaing Pinoy, the creative industries, there's a close tie between creativity and design. Creativity feeds design, and in the same way, design feeds into the creative nature of the Filipinos. Our participation in the Malikhaing Pinoy Expo, we want to showcase the excellence of our Filipino designers and Filipino creatives, and at the same time, showcase how their skills, their creative skills and talents can be translated into business opportunities and livelihood opportunities. For example po, we have this 𝗵𝗴𝗶𝗶 blanket.
Okay.
It is made of 𝗵𝗴𝗆 yarn. 𝗵𝗵𝗆 is actually a material that Design Center, in collaboration with private sector manufacturers, to create pineapple fiber out of the discarded leaves of the pineapple plant. And then we manipulated the material and converted them into different product applications. So we use 𝗵𝗵𝗆 for this blanket, and at the same time, we use the 𝗵𝗵𝗆 pulp and paper on that chair po.
It also gives a lot of opportunities for people in different sectors or in the grassroots level, kasi that's where you source the materials, hindi ba? So parang it's like giving them markets for their produce?
Yes. We actually provide another value to discarded materials or raw materials. That's one aspect of design where we can see the creative nature of the Filipino people. We also partner with other DTI offices to provide market access. So the objects or the products that we make, we use design in helping micro, small, and medium enterprises and then assist them with design services so that they can showcase their products into trade fairs that are organized by the DTI po.
I noticed that there are very special selections here. Who are the somehow most famous designers so far that you have showcased here at the entrance of Malikhaing Pinoy?
The selection naman po of the design showcase is to collectively put together the best representation of Philippine design. So aside from 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, we also have pieces from 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. We also have pieces from Industria Edition. And then we also have pieces by 𝗦𝗁𝗁𝗏, Touch of Craft, MCCA, and Vulcan Resources, as well as Tony Gonzalez.
Ano ba, Miss Carla, yung masasabi natin na design identity ng Pilipino?
In terms of how it looks like, dahil po marami tayong influences from outside, we really can't pinpoint at this moment a specific aesthetic for it.
In short, we're research.
Pero I just want to also emphasize that Design Center is crafting a national design policy. And then we grounded that po on Filipino values such as malikhain, madiskarte, mabusisi, may puso, kapwa, malasakit, mahusay. It is very innate in the Filipino people, yung creativity, yung pagiging malikhain po. And then, as we can see naman po in this expo, there are different manifestations or embodiment of creativity, and one of it nga is design. And with the National Design Policy, we also want to emphasize that aside from pagiging malikhain, our body of work is also driven by other characteristics such as nga po yung pagiging madiskarte, which is very evident in the way Filipinos manage to create something in the face of scarcity. We have our national design policy grounded on these values.
This portion is brought to you by Pure Gold. Sa Pure Gold, always mura, always kompleto, always may promo, always panalo. Every morning is a new story with Kada Umaga.
Your favorite morning show, ito po ang Kada Umaga.
Surprise performances, latest trends, expert hacks, and exciting games. Be ready to be part of the Kada Squad and enjoy your morning with Diana, Emma, and Pia. Kada Umaga, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, only on Net 25.
Let's get together. Sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
Matapang at mapanuring komentaryo.
70 to 80% of our Congress is a political dynasty. So paano naman yan magkakaroon ng checks and balance? Ikaw yung congressman, yung asawa mo yung mayor.
Balita at impormasyon, detalyado at makabuluhan. Hihimayin para sa mas malalim na talakayan. Samahan ng mga batikang komentarista. Ali Soto.
This is for him to have his day in court, di ba, Senator? Alam mo naman yan, nag-aral ka din ng batas.
At Pat P. Daza.
Yung mga ganitong pagsasalita ng China, yan ba'y dapat ikabahala natin? Dapat ba natin ikatakutan?
ASPN. Ano sa palagay nyo? Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga sa Net 25.
The focus on fashion earlier was very amazing. As a matter of fact, it was the center or the centerpiece of the Malikhaing Pinoy. And I saw some of your pieces. How do you feel that there is a government spotlight on your industry, which is fashion?
Well, to be honest, it's a very warming experience. Kasi for the longest time, we're on the sideline, no? But the Philippine fashion is a very huge, industry that caters to more, like, yung mga hindi mo mamamalayan na, like for example, sa creation pa lang ng jobs, no? kami nagre-represent ng most of the 7 million, no? Kasi nabanggit kanina na the creative industry generated like 7 million employment, no? So siguro most of the is coming from our sector. Okay, so yung impact na yun is very personal din kasi galing kami dun eh. Kami yung nasa likod ng mga pieces.
We cannot help but compare, di ba? The fashion here and, the fashion all over the world. Kasi, di ba, that's the reason why we look at various international brands. Somehow, unti-unti, you are slowly seeing the identity of the Filipino fashion. But if I ask you, Vin, ano ba yung Pinoy na design? Meron bang ganon? Is there such a thing as Filipino design or Filipino style?
This has been a conversation for quite some time na, for ilang years na already. Dito sa amin sa mga contemporaries ko, we're trying to build the Filipino look, no? Which is of course very cultural, no? May cultural reference, no? But technically, anything na gawa ng Filipino, it's already Pinoy, no? Hindi naman siya kailangan visually na literal na kailangan Filipino. As long as na dumaan yan sa kamay ng Pinoy, it's already Pinoy, no? Hindi siya kailangan meron talagang image na kunyari tailored gano'n, na pag sinabi mong tailored western, but Japan also does that, right? Pero sa amin now, sa contemporaries ko nga, sabi ko, nakitang-kita yung elements ng pagiging Filipino. Like for example, this look, right? I've been using the technique of hand embroidery. It's away from the usual patterns ng barong. And then for example, itong bag ko na to, I've incorporated another hand embroidery technique with another artist, a Filipino artist, and then develop this bag. So, hindi kailangan like literal, pero merong elements. So, we're trying to build on that note na this is the new Filipino look. Na hindi kailangan barot saya, hindi kailangan lang ganon. So, we've grown, no? We've matured to that idea. Plus the fact that yun nga, I'm part of the Philippine Fashion Coalition as well. And then merong program now is the Fashion Philippines in Milan. We are sending like 12 designers to Milan this coming Fashion Week. Yun nga yung magko-close ng gap din eh ng interpretation ng Filipino look on a global perspective or on a global stage. So, merong mga activities together with the government na yun nga nakaka-engage sa aming mga young designers na to really push forward and then really go global.
Designers or fashion designers also have their own sources of inspiration. In your case, di ba, parang some, they attend events like this, they travel, they go to Milan, to Paris, they're exposed to a lot of cultures and environments. In your case, di ba?
Ako personally, from the streets, like literal, kalsada. When I go out, when I go to 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗶, when I go to Intramuros, when I meet people, yan. So, that's my personal source of inspiration. Katulad ng mga ganitong conversation, it sparks an interest. Yung emotion na yon, I get inspiration from that.
What's your vision as well? Like, do you also have plans of going international? Because I think that's the dream also of a lot of artists, being fashion designers or any artist, they want to go global and conquer the international stage.
Of course, that's the goal. Pero the first thing is dapat appreciated ka muna here sa atin. Okay? Kasi yun yung strength na yun yung strength na babaunin mo going out. Okay? So you have to really establish first here and then go out. When you are appreciated here, bala siya or parang armor mo din siya, protection mo din siya. So, yun muna yung step before going global.
How easy it is or hard to penetrate the domestic market muna? Are you given, here ba in the Philippines, are you given a lot of opportunities? Are you given funding? Are there a lot of clients? How easy or hard is it?
To be honest, KKB to. Yes, that's the hard truth. Everything is on you, no? Lahat ng investments mo, lahat ng relationships mo, etc. Lahat yun you have to build it. Yeah. Personally, like yung approach mo personal. Until umabot ka sa time na pwede ka na mag-expand or mag-scale up. Pero yung mga first steps, yung hard, medyo parang ang lamya pa na term yun. Pero unimaginable yung hardship. I really cannot explain how hard it is, no? Pero yun nga lang kasi ang thing na magsaset sa'yo apart would be, of course, your consistency. Your DNA as a designer, no? And then yung kung ano mga pinapatunayan mo, storytelling mo, etc., mo branding, etc. So it's about that eh. Yung talagang yung heart mo towards what you do. Yun yung magsiset apart for you.
If there is a wish list that you have in mind, that maybe the government or the private sector can provide, what is it?
Parang ang dami. Parang madaming wish list. Pero yeah,
No.
and then I've talked to one of our colleagues here. So next year, there will be an ASEAN thing. So hopefully, it will spark another movement. Kasi dito sa amin, dito locally, meron ng mga trade fairs na nagpo-promote ng local crafts. We have Artefino, 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶 Fair, mga ganyan. So nakakapag-engage yun ng market. Pero in terms of the government, yung continuous pa din na support like this, yung mga ganito, yung mga exposures natin. Pero kung meron talagang specific na wish list, dalihin nyo kami abroad. Kasi government to government kasi yun eh. So bring us there, we'll make things happen. Promise, Pilipino tayo eh.
Just to give a bit broader scope, I look after Southeast Asia. So in Southeast Asia, you talk about 3D animation. We will look at Thailand. But we talk about 2D animation, this is the place. Philippines has a lot of 2D animators. And we talk about a pool of talents, ample pool of talents, Philippines and Thai. These are the two main countries in Southeast Asia that has the biggest ready pool of talents to make a modern animation. Now it encompasses 2D animation as well as 3D animation. It makes the animation movie more realistic. In my opinion, if I want to make a movie, animation movie, I'll have to bring in the Thai and of course the Philippines. And then we have to put them together, and that's where you can make a better animation, quality animation movie. To me, Southeast Asia is like a little European Union. If we can put all the talents from every country, like Vietnam, they are very good in gaming development. And we can put all these artists into one single place to do one single job for one single movie. I think we have plenty of talents. Our movie can win an Oscar.
The Animation Council of the Philippines is actually the composition of an association with our members, member studios, and member vendors. We comprise of 2D, 3D. We're known for 2D for the past 40 years. Unknown for the rest of the world is that we've been doing animation for the past 40 years, specifically for production. But for marketing, distribution, licensing, this is what our clients have been doing for the past. The global pie is 413 billion as of 2024. We only comprise 60 billion USD, and it's a small fraction. The value chain in our case, just like in garments, the cost of the products being sold or the services being sold, since it starts with the operations, it's kind of low, just like in the manufacturing. But as you move up with licensing, with distribution, throughout all the partners all around the world. So let's just say I'm servicing for Thailand, Indonesia, or let's just say even US, and the cost for the product becomes higher because it's already distributed. The same thing with goods, okay? It's somewhat like that. Okay, so it would be best that the slight, and this is what we're doing right now with the council, we're moving from just going for service and incorporating a drive to fully go for original content. And this is a seeding thing because we want to be part of an international ecosystem of content. And that's why we have vendor partners to help us build the infrastructure. And we also have the animation studios that has been servicing most of the global content that we have here. We have Toy Animation here, we have Toon City, we have Top Draw Animation, and a multitude of smaller studios that also do subcontracting work. It's our bread and butter. However, with original content, and I want to cite Sun Chaser, which won the Animation du Monde in MIFA. Okay, it's the marketplace for animation. They are able to get the highest award that's there, which means the world's eyes are on us. So, Sun Chaser might be a way of bringing the eyes of the global audience to the original content, and we could earn more. Because in the value chain, we're not just creating certain parts of the whole thing. Okay, imagine a cell phone, you're just making components. It's more of we are masters of production for the past 40 years. We've been doing production. There's pre-production, there's post-production, and that's normally what our clients would do. Okay, so if our clients are Disney will ask us to do the 2D or the 3D animation, and we'd be doing that for them. Okay, so the value chain is very limited. So
But if we do original content, new IP, that is the market that we haven't developed yet.
Correct. Because if we have the original content, it would sustain all the processes that we have, starting from pre-production, story development, pre-production, production, then post, and then marketing, licensing, and distribution.
Pero may market po kaya tayo nun? Sino ang market natin sa ganon? Meaning, are we going to somehow create content that appeal to whom?
An international audience. Okay, why? Because they haven't heard our stories. They haven't heard Filipino stories. All we hear are Asian, Japanese, okay, and then hanggang ganun lang. Okay, but in terms of the novelty, so I would suggest, okay, mas maganda we patronize our own products. Okay, I remember the talk yesterday by Chair Joey Reyes of FDCP, because we don't really love what we are as Filipinos, and we don't love our products and services. Ngayon, dapat mahalin natin. So the best way is to do it is to propagate and then consume Filipino content.
So sa inyo po ba, para matuloy ang mga proyektong ito, what exactly do you need? A specific project, budget, funding? What if you have a wish list, for them to support your organization or the industry, what exactly do you need?
There are two areas. One is already being acknowledged and they're recognized right now by DepEd, CHED, and TESDA. Okay, and that is training and development, talent development. So we're working on that right now. But the longer scheme is to take a look at grants. For example, FDCP and NCCA, they have grants, right? However, it might not be suitable enough, to cover what we need, because the cost that we have is very much different, and the type of production that we have is very much different. So I would say that what would happen is actually an original content development fund. Okay, we're hoping that PCEDA would allow us in our domain to have funds for that. We have already our partners that could help us enable the work. It's the matter of funding so that we could sustain our talent and then come out with the different areas of production. Not only production, but also distribution as well.
A lot of Filipinos or a lot of viewers or a lot of film producers, sabi nila, when you do a film, dapat your end vision and goal is to put it on streaming platforms. So, may market ba?
Yes sir, may market po. Because, kasi sinabi po ni sir, yung creativity ng Filipino, hindi pa natin nailalabas, especially yung mga local na mga stories natin, yung mga original content po natin. Because of Netflix, nare-release natin kung ano yung gano'ng ka-rich yung culture ng Filipino, kung paano natin malalabas yung mga different stories natin, yung mga, isa na po ngayon doon yung 𝗏𝗏 na from comic books na naging animation siya. So, marami pa po ngayon, like yung mga gawa ni 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 yung Saving Sally, yung iba pang mga Filipino original content. So, because of that, na ilalabas at na showcase po natin yung mga works ng mga local Filipino artists, local Filipino storytellers, at makikita po sa ibang bansa na okay, we have original content, hindi ganun ka-influence with other international na mga stories. And it's a good thing na mapakita natin kung gaano ka-rich yung talent at yung culture ng Filipino.
So actually available na yung gadgets natin for our artists. So andito na siya lahat, kompleto na. So even the software available and the hardware. For the government, we wanted this kind of event. So at least mga students natin and professors and professionals can see what we're offering.
Are books still relevant or what you produced was an e-book?
It doesn't matter if it's traditional or digital, as long as yung content is maganda. What is important is yung laman ng mismong book.
Yun. So parang we go back to the same old saying na content is king. Your work is one of the most recognizable. When they see your sculpture, alam po nilang Ramon Orlina. Ano po ba yung sikreto naman po ng pagiging Ramon Orlina?
Well, kailangan ng matyaga. I've been doing this for DTI, no? For maybe 18 or 20 years. Every year,
The focus now of the government is really creative industries. Do you think the Philippines is ready? That artists like you and all, even the new generation like animation is now given that spotlight to showcase.
Yes. Of course, everybody has to be given the opportunity. When sa akin, relate nga kasi alam mo naman, hindi na ako mahilig sa press release or whatever. Pero hindi ako nabibigyan ng support. Ngayon, naggaganto, magandang report nangyayari sa akin. So ito, hindi lang para sa akin, para sa mga bata.
How do you feel that your talent and your creativity is recognized, especially in this event?
First, talaga, I'm very grateful and really thankful kasi it really proves na tayo mga Filipino ay talagang malikhain. We are on top of our league. We're very creative and we're very progressive. At ako'y tuwang-tuwa na ako ang nag-direct ng ating show today and really looking forward sa marami pang shows or collaboration that I will do for the Department of Trade and Industry.
Ang sinabi din kanina, Direk, ay hindi lang dito sa Pilipinas, but the DTI together with the other agencies are really promoting the Philippines in the international stage. So sa iyo po ba, paano po ba kakaiba ang talento at creativity ng mga Pilipino pagdating sa international stage? Talagang lumalaban po ba yung mga designs natin?
Ito po ang aking masasabi every time na kami po ay gumagawa ng show sa ibang bansa and then ang audience ay tumayo na at nagbigay na ng standing ovation. Doon mo sasabihin, proud akong maging Pilipino.
And are they doing that?
They're doing that po. And yun po yung nakakataba ng puso, hindi ma-explain yung feeling that we're showcasing the best of the Filipino talent. Especially me, I represent the Philippine fashion industry. Last time we had the show in Tokyo and we featured the collection of 𝗷𝗶𝗏𝗏 for Fashion Aid Philippines as well, and of course the Department of the Trade and Industry of the Philippines. So talaga namang nakakataba ng puso kapag narinig mo na yung palakpak ng tao at they really appreciate yung talent natin bilang mga Pilipino. Actually lahat talaga pagdating sa design, nakita nyo naman ang ating furnitures, ang ating fashion ay world class. Sa visual arts, nakita naman nyo ang mga gawa ni Ramon Orlina at mga iba pa nating artists ay talaga namang tinatangkilik sa anumang parte ng mundo. Performing arts, global Filipino talent tayo pagdating sa pagkanta at pagtatanghal. And now gaming, we are really doing so well in that aspect also of creativity. So lahat talaga.
Somehow, the MSMEs or regular Filipinos, regular fashion designers, siyempre gusto nila higher income, higher opportunities. Since you are representing also an association, are you feeling it somehow?
Ang laki na ng market natin, mga Filipino. Dati, dito tayo, we have our own market here in the Philippines. Pero ngayon, the world is our oyster. So kumbaga ang market natin, kahit saan man ng mundo, lalo na sa tulong ng ating Department of Trade and Industry na talaga naman nagpupursige na tulungan ng mga Filipino talents or Filipino creatives natin. And I know that more programs will be implemented para talaga matulungan ng lahat ng creatives katulad natin.
On your way to success? Start with the best. New Era University, where we guide every individual to their natural state of excellence. Enroll now, because New Era University awaits the future we can build together.
the 32nd National PR Congress. Pressing issues such as authenticity in the digital age, the role of artificial intelligence, and how trust and engagement are being reshaped in modern communication took the center stage. With the theme Plot Twist, the Congress tackled how credibility and brand reputation are critical. These discussions resonate far beyond the PR industry. They directly impact the way companies build relationships with customers, investors, and the public.
You know, you mentioned how PR evolved already. In a nutshell ba, di ba, parang before it used to be just simple press releases, but this time, you know, it's really something different.
Yes. Number one, there's a challenge of AI. Di ba? How AI is used now for information dissemination, as a platform, as a source of news for everybody. So the challenge for PR and communicators is really to be able to teach people, to educate people, how to discern whether that AI-generated content is truth or not. That's one. And then, of course, there's always the issue of trust. The role of PR practitioners is, of course, building communities and then shaping the stories and making sure that people receive the right information. Diba? So there is always trust in the information landscape. For example, it's very important to create that kind of stakeholder trust at any point in the business operation. You have to build that trust among your stakeholders.
Can you cite an example where that trust can possibly be earned, you know, especially amongst the stakeholders?
That's why it's, Sam, you know, that's why very important to share your positive stories. Even before a crisis strikes, for example, you have already created that sphere of trust among your stakeholders who can always vet for the good that you do for the community. So that's number one. Number two is that you always have to be ready. So even before a situation arises wherein you'll be put in a possibly compromised situation, there are already people, you already have your stakeholders vetting that you're doing good for the community, that can vet for your reputation. And here at the PR Congress, we'll be introducing a reputation stability benchmark. It's a pioneer in the industry right now, wherein people will be able to score themselves in terms of gauging your reputation, which we very well know, reputation is how people look at you. Diba? It's the reputation stability benchmark tool, and it talks about how companies, how businesses should be able to adapt to the times, because there are so many elements of communications. We are done with just the traditional media or legacy media. The speed of information is so fast that you have to be always 2 steps ahead of it.
The role of PR has already evolved. So how does PR now interface, you know, with the different platforms that we have now, and how important it is? And I also learned earlier, you know, from the other speakers that even PR practitioners can do advertising, can do brand management. Paano yun? Hindi ba parang nawawala na daw yung distinction, yung you know, how you distinguish one area from the other?
Well, yeah, that's true. There's what they call the blurring of lines across platforms, and also there's a need to really understand how micro-targeting is becoming a trend because of the different generations that we need to talk to. You have on one end Gen Alpha and Gen Z, who are all digital natives, but you still need to be relevant to the boomers and the Gen X, who are a mix of traditional and digital migrants. So it's really a challenge, and also I think an opportunity for PR marketers and practitioners, as well as media owners, to really adapt and transform given this paradox of an environment that we are in.
What's your take on the measurement of reputation and for me naman, authenticity of messages? Kasi siyempre at the end, it's always us, the consumers of media and the users of media who will consume, that information.
Well, for the first part, it's the measurement. So long as it's grounded on credible methodology and talks to the right consumers or the right target markets, I think it's a relevant development. On the other hand, we also need to be very wary that the advent of technology like AI needs to be balanced with what you mentioned, authenticity. So without authenticity at the core, any technological development will I think fail at the end of it. So everything goes back to the consumer and how we understand and relate to the consumers at the end of the day.
What inspired you to come up with, this theme? Where is the inspiration coming from as far as plot twist is concerned?
I personally crafted the theme line, so this was very relevant to me and the people around me. So all I really needed to do was to talk to my friends who are PR professionals themselves, people in my office, and ask them, what do you feel about our practice today? And that was a resonant theme. So people were always saying that, just when you thought you've already mastered your craft in PR and communication, you realize that you don't really know it as much as you should, because there are new things happening. Culture is changing, values are changing, technology is changing as well, and we've got to update ourselves soonest so that we are able to practice alongside the changes that are happening around us.
What specific trainings or skills or techniques should be learned or relearned?
Ang basic is communication. You ought to be able to express yourselves with the right messaging tools. But apart from that, you also need to be abreast with all the other tools that you encounter as a practitioner. You ought to understand data and be able to use data to shape the stories that you want to tell. You've got to know or understand digital media, pati yung pag-boost ng mga posts sa Facebook or analytics with regard to social media and social listening. These were tools that were not available to us before, di ba? But now, because of technology, we ought to understand those tools and use that the best that we can to be able to shape stories and shape reputations and shape perceptions.
How do we now sense the authenticity of all these messages coming from the sector that you represent now?
Ang hirap, It's so difficult these days, but so long as the PR practitioner is true to his or her code of ethics as a PR professional, we should be good. We are all attempting to do or to use communication for good, to use communication to create a better society. So long as hindi tayo lumihis sa role na yun, so long as we're steadfast on the journey towards the truth, then all should be good. So as PR practitioners, actually, even any citizen for that matter, we ought to be fighting for that. We ought to be fighting for a world where truth exists and that citizens are not fooled by fakery. So bantayan natin yan. Yan ang role natin bilang communicators.
Authenticity and trust remain the strongest currencies in business communication, even as AI and big data continue to change the landscape. For entrepreneurs and corporations alike, the challenge is not just adopting technology, but ensuring that human values and transparency remain at the core of every message. Truly, the insights shared here remind us that public relations is not just about image. It's about integrity, strategy, and the future of meaningful connections.
Maraming salamat sa isang oras na pagsama sa amin sa ating mga manonood na tumunghay sa isang makabuluhang usapan ukol sa negosyo. Dito lang sa Open for Business. Hanggang sa susunod na linggo, samahan nyo kaming muli dito sa Open for Business. Catch us too on Facebook and YouTube. Like and subscribe on our social media page at Net25 TV.
We will bring you more insights from industry experts, thought leaders, CEOs, and featured SMEs. Together, let us help encourage business development in the Philippines. Sharpen your business acumen, feel the pulse, and set the trend for as long as you're informed and open for business. Ito po si 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗏𝗏. Marami pong salamat.